Welcome everybody to the Innovation Summit 2017. It is great for myself and my team to host you here today. When we talked about the topic for the event, and Schneider is rolling out innovation summits around the world, the Pacific region is one of the first to go, and as we alluded to at the start of the event, Hong Kong is next. It was interesting to think about innovation and what it means. I think coming from the IT industry, there's quite a few words over time that kind of roll off our vocabulary that almost lose the meaning of what they first were. So one of the things we wanted to do in the agenda today was really have you all reconnect to innovation. And there's kind of two themes that you'll get out of today. One is absolutely, as one of the largest industrial technology companies in the world, our technology stack and what innovation means and what you can do and have done in terms of innovation. The other is really the mindset, and we're lucky enough to have Todd here and Steve and quite a lot of great Australian entrepreneurs in the room that you'll have access to over the next 5 or 6 or 7 hours. I ask you to take the time to see those people and meet those people, because I think there's a lot of great ideas that exist on the back of a napkin. But really innovation is more than that. So I think the mindset piece is really important. To prove that point, I think to crystallise it, it wasn't that long ago where the only metric of a company's performance was really financial metrics. Revenue, middle line, bottom line, throw in their market share. But over the last couple of years, some of the largest companies in the world, market capitalisation in the tens of billions, have not turned $1 of profit. Have not turned $1 of profit. They're being completely measured on their ability to innovate. Not just potential, but relevance. How relevant are they? How fast can they move into a space of relevance? So I think that was a really interesting point for me as I've been reflecting on innovation. And I ask you today to consider really finding the time today to go back to what innovation means for you. You've taken the time to be here. So it means something. It's either your permanent mission in your role, or it's something that interests you, or maybe it's something that you've forgotten. If I could share a personal anecdote, if I could. These two photos are taken around the same time, late 50s, probably 58, 59. Photo on your right is of my mother's family, actually. The young child at the front is my mother. A couple of days in Sydney after travelling from southern Italy. And to your left is my father's family, the young lad there with his thumbs in his pocket, and the white singlet, actually everyone's wearing white singlets, is my father. And I wasn't raised in a world of Teslas or Edisons or Gateses or Jobs. If I was, I wouldn't be here right now, let me tell you. But I was influenced by a lot of people over the first couple of decades of my life. And I say this because when I was reconnecting to this event and what innovation meant, I actually really thought about where I came from. And the currency of that innovation was the same. These people that influenced me that you see on the screen were great people. They were really resourceful, access to almost no capital, great innovators, great inventors, great recyclers of innovation as well. They worked very hard on themselves every day. Marginal improvements, marginal gains every day. Real key to innovation, I find, and maybe Todd and Steve will take us through some of that mindset piece as well. I think the third was they had a yearning passion to make a difference. That's what really drove them. They had a permanent mission to make a difference. And I guess I'm a bit of a byproduct of that, standing up here today in front of you all, a long way from a boat from southern Italy. So I think for me personally, I wanted to share that personal moment around that because there's another part of this as well that sometimes we take for granted and that we also don't take the responsibility for. And that is in Australia and New Zealand, and I think there's quite a large Kiwi contingent, or the New Zealanders in the room, hands up. We are the earliest adopters of technology in the world. Actually, New Zealand are the earliest adopters of technology in the world. So I ask as you go through today and you reconnect with innovation, you take on the responsibility of innovating not just for Australia and New Zealand in this zone, but how do we export that? Think big, think big. And I've got some great examples, and you'll see some great people today who have done that. There is no difference. It's only a mindset shift. So I had some core principles growing up. I shared some of those with you. At Schneider, we have a very, very simple blueprint to innovation, 5 key principles. Number 1, customer first. Everything that we do Everything that we do must have an impact on our customer or our customer's customer. Otherwise, it's a complete waste of time. Number 2, quality first. It's built into our DNA, as Gareth alluded to the fact that Schneider is a company that was born in 1836, mainly around electrical distribution technology. So if we didn't get quality right, people died. Very easy to build into your DNA. And the APC brand as well. Simple and easy. Solving complex issues, but in a really simple and easy way. And I'll take you through some of that as well. System view, everything that we build and innovate must be part of a greater ecosystem, a greater system. Why? Because we want to have choice. We want you to have choice, to be able to work with some of the brands that you prefer or the technologies that you prefer. So we need a system view. Number 5, digital, self-explanatory. So when you take those core principles, how do we innovate and allow you to innovate on a technology stack that allows you to innovate in a world where life is on? So I present to you EcoStruxure, innovation at every level. Our blueprint to allow our partners, our business partners and our customers to innovate. It's a really simple framework. 3 layers, 6 architectures into 4 end-user markets. The bottom layer, Gareth has covered off, connected products. We have a history of making products, great products, reliable products, very, very digital products. As Gareth said, the first wave of the internet, the last 20 years, a couple of billion people connected to the internet. The next 5, another couple more, 2-3 billion people. The next 5 years, 40, 50 billion machines accessing the internet. So connected products is absolutely our permanent mission in life. And you can't talk IoT unless you have that. Next layer is edge controls. So with that amount of people to people, people to machine, machine to machine transactions, more and more the edge layer is the point of management and measurement of a complicated ecosystem. And I'll talk you through some examples of those. At the top layer, apps, analytics, marginal gains. In a world that is a lot less predictable, we're all looking for more prediction. That's not a business thing, that's just life. Wrap around that the fact that everything needs to be cyber secure, and then all of those platforms need to work on-premise or off-premise. And then we have the 6 architectures into those 4 end-user markets. The grid, industrial segments, data center, and commercial buildings. We've chosen those 4 end-user markets because if we get it right there, we affect the lives of 70% of the energy consumers of the world. So they're high return targets. Those 6 architectures, and Andrew Kirker, who will be presenting shortly, is he's our segment leader for cloud and service providers in the zone. Andrew will take you through the EcoStruxure architecture for data center. But essentially, each one of those 6 building blocks is where we have technically validated and documented architectures. One size does not fit all, we understand that. So it's about innovating across those building blocks. I think one of the things that's really important for those in the data center specific world that maybe don't understand what's happening at the operational technology level, we have an innovation hub outside. Schneider is leading the way around the convergence of IT/OT, which will dictate what the data center of the future looks like. And we see it as being a combination of off-prem, on-prem, and the edge. That's what we see today. I'm a proud Australian, if you haven't noticed. So innovation is great. As I said, innovation by PowerPoint is not something that I'm a big advocate of. How do we implement this into the real world? So if I look across the segments that I'm responsible for in the zone, we are a strong contributor to almost every major segment in Australia and New Zealand. So the largest 11 gas providers in the country have EcoStruxure or some form of our stack already implemented. 10 of the largest mining companies, and of course 2 out of the 3 largest miners in the world exist here in BHP and Rio Tinto, and we have 10 in total that are relying on us and our technology stack. 10 of the strongest food and beverage brands. Australia and New Zealand should become the food bowl to Asia. There is no reason why we shouldn't. There is no reason why we shouldn't. And today, we power 10 of the strongest brands in the food and beverage market. 100% or 100 sites plus in the water wastewater industry. 8 out of 10 residential homes have Clipsal at its core. 8 out of 10 residential homes have Clipsal at its core. 100% of distribution and transmission power utilities are customers of Schneider and EcoStruxure. 3 out of the 4 largest hyperscales standardise on EcoStruxure, and almost every major data centre in the country has some kind of reliance on us. Lots of machine builders as well in the country, 8 out of 10. So it's not about innovation on a PowerPoint slide, it's about how do we execute on that in real-world applications. So I might talk you through some of our case studies, and there's a lot of great case studies where we've innovated before with our customers and our partners. If you go to Schneider TV, there's a repository there of all of these case studies as well. One of those that you're seeing as the video rolls, I'll just talk over the top off and just give you some highlights. This building is the greenest building in the world. It's in Amsterdam. It's called The Edge. Tenant is Deloitte, vision of Deloitte. This building is powered by Schneider's EcoStruxure. All the management systems, the core is Schneider. This building generates more power than it needs. It actually puts back into the grid. It generates 103% of demand. So on the environmental side, it ticks every box. From a technology side, and this is where innovating with our partners is key, there's about 28,000 sensors in the building. There's 2,500 people in the building and less than 1,000 desks. No one has a desk. By the time you wake up in the morning, the application has already reconciled your movements for the day, what meetings you have. It'll push you into a meeting room or the atrium or a concentration room. There are robots in the building that'll handle coffee. The entire ecosystem is predictive. It's the most efficient building in the world from a green perspective and also from a workplace perspective. It's a great example of not innovating on a PowerPoint presentation, but changing people's lives. A bit closer to home, Gareth referred to the South Australian Power Network. Highly political situation with power in Australia, especially in the great state of South Australia. But over the last couple of years, we have worked with the power utility and implemented our EcoStruxure ADMS, our Advanced Distribution Management System, essentially building a smart grid. So we've overlaid that software. It's essentially a self-healing grid. What I'm really, really proud of in this case study was that, and there's some people in the room that were part of this project, a lot of the non-digital hardware that was at the grid level has actually been digitised, and that was implemented and innovated in this country, and we can export that at that product level. So it's another great example of not innovating on a PowerPoint presentation, but innovating in real life, changing people's lives. We do a lot of great work in mining. If I look at IoT and the convergence, actually mining was one of the first adopters, I would say, of this convergence and this technology convergence, mainly out of the necessity of safety as a priority, but also just given the ups and downs of commodity prices, so being able to scale operations very, very quickly up and down. Most of this case study you see on the screen, and when you do download it, it's First Quantum Minerals. It's a site in Finland. It's mainly in the dark because there's our equipment and Altivar process control unit, a drive that's driving an extrusion fan, extruding the gases and the blast mine from 1.5 kilometres underground. So we talk about connected products, a very large drive in a very, very, very particular rugged environment, being able to be managed from above the surface. It's 1.5 kilometres underground. For those that are part or supporting the mining segment, it's a great case study in working with a customer and a site to mitigate any safety concerns. I highly recommend that you get across this case study. It's another great example of not innovating on a PowerPoint presentation, but changing people's lives. Data centres, a big theme for this event. There's a very, very particular data centre in Norway called Green Mountain. It's interesting, it was an ex-NATO bunker site. They carved out a mountain. It could never be replicated. The cost of taking out a mountain would be too great. Financially, it would never stack up. But they used the vacancy in the mountain left by NATO to build a data centre. They have a full end-to-end EcoStruxure backbone, complete Schneider end-to-end. The teams worked with Green Mountain to design the cooling system. It's a zero-emissions data centre. It would have to be one of the greenest data centres in the world, if not the greenest, based on its geographical uniqueness. Another great example of not innovating on a PowerPoint presentation, but innovating in real life, changing people's lives. If I come a bit closer to home, we've done a lot of great work in this country and in this region with the data centre community. One of those, and we're lucky enough to have Greg Bura here, the CEO of Canberra Data Centre, and some of his team. Greg turns 10 years old this year, his company, and I use the case study here not only for what Greg's done in the data centre world and what he brings to the government and his tenants, but I started this by talking about mindset and talking about a mindset shift, creating possibilities. Greg's been at the bleeding edge of technology for over a decade. He took large risks in building something that was very, very different to the norm and continues to do that, which is why he's so far ahead of the curve. Greg is presenting today at one of the streams, and I really highly recommend, not only from a data centre perspective, but from a mindset, people perspective, that you spend some time with Greg. Greg is a great example, and his team are a great example of not just innovating off a PowerPoint slide, but innovating in real life, making a difference. One of the last is a little brand called Ferrari. So APC have had a strong relationship with Ferrari for a long time. You talk about the Internet of Things, you talk about big data, you talk about innovation. I don't think there's any other industry that has progressed like Formula One. Tenths of seconds, the difference between first and third, first and last. Billions of dollars at risk. Very, very strong brand. We continue to power the data centres of Ferrari. We continue to work on the ecosystem of on-premise and off-premise. A Ferrari car has almost 300 sensors. Within the car, there's almost a kilometre of cabling that connects the sensors. The whole car weighs 500 kilos. It's another great example of our innovation is not just about PowerPoint presentations, it's about changing people's lives. So, a couple of last slides to wrap up on the people, mindset and connections. At Schneider, we understand we have the technology layer, we have the stack. We're doing it every day. We're not innovating on the back of a napkin. We're not innovating in PowerPoint presentations. We're innovating in real life. But there's a part of this which is almost as great, if not greater, than the technology. And that is the mindset, the people, and the connections. The last 2 days, we've run a hackathon outside from yesterday, Angela Chen and her team. To see that combination of people innovating in a short period of time is the future. It's here and now. And if you're not doing that as an organisation, you will be left behind. The mindset, Todd and those that have achieved far more in this world than I would ever hope to imagine, we'll spend some time on that. Connections in this room, we have business partners, we have end-user customers, we have channel partners, integrators. We've only been able to create those case studies because of that combination of connections. So this is Schneider innovation at every level. It's about creating opportunities for yourselves as people, your organisations, and for the country and the region. As you're reconnecting with innovation today, I ask you to think about and ask yourself the question, are you innovating to keep up, or are you innovating to get ahead? Welcome to the Innovation Summit 2017. Thank you very much.